Bonsoir, Namaskar. Bienvenue en Satsang. Nous avons le plaisir aujourd'hui d'accueillir Acharya Mangalananda, qui nous rejoint depuis San Francisco et avec qui nous allons passer une petite heure ensemble. Pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas Acharya Mangalananda, euh, Acharya est un des disciples directs d'Ananda Mahima. Il a rencontré Ananda Mahima dans les années 70. Il a ensuite travaillé dans ses ashrams. Il est aujourd'hui un enseignant et il organise des bhajans et des kirtans dans la tradition du bhakti yoga un peu partout dans le monde. C'est un grand honneur et un grand plaisir de l'avoir avec nous en satsang. Je vous propose de le saluer. Namaskar. Thank you, Acharya, for being with us. Great pleasure, great honor.
The honor and pleasure is mine, for sure. I love talking about Ma to anyone who will listen.
Donc, Acharya dit, j'adore parler d'Ananda Mahima à tous ceux qui veulent l'entendre. Je suis en train d'accueillir d'autres gens. Voilà. Nous sommes 70. Alors, ce que je vous propose, c'est de commencer cette rencontre par notre méditation habituelle qui va durer une dizaine de minutes. Après cela, nous donnerons la parole et le chant à Acharya. Mais d'abord, les invocations rituelles. Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Paratmane Namaha. Om Kula Devatabhyo Namaha. Om Ishta Devatabhyo Namaha. Om Mata Pitribhyam Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityar Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai. The best way to relate to Ma is through the heart and through music. So let's sing Jaya Jaya Ma.
Chantons pour Ma.
Jaya Jaya Ma, 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 Jaya Jaya Ma. Purna Brahma Narayani Ma, Purna Brahma Narayani Ma, Purna Satya Swarupini Ma, Purna Satya Swarupini Ma, Dayamai Ma, Karunamai Ma, Dayamai Ma, Karunamai Ma, Dayamai Ma, Karunamai Ma, Dayamai Ma, Karunamai Ma, Anandamai Ma, Anandamai Ma, Anandamai Ma, Anandamai Ma, Jaya Guru Jaya 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 Ma. Om Ma Shri Ma, Jaya 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 Jaya Ma. Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you so much. Koti, Koti, Koti. So, Acharya, the first question that I'd like to ask you is how did you meet Ananda Mahima? And what is your most vivid souvenir with her? Two questions, actually. I'm going to say it in French before we start.
Okay.
Donc, j'ai demandé à Acharya quel était comment il avait rencontré Ananda Mahima et quel était son souvenir le plus vif, le plus prégnant avec elle.
To start, we'll tune in. Om Khanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhavata Papranashanyai Ananda Ghanamurtaye Jnana Bhakti Mukti Pradayanye Matastubhyam Namo Namaha. Matastubhyam namo namaha. So to answer your questions, I was studying yoga with Swami Satchidananda, who's a disciple of Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh in America, in Texas. I was a teenager.
Alors, Acharya était adolescent, il a étudié le yoga avec la Divine Life Society au Texas.
He had saved me, along with many, many other young people of that era, from the ravages of the drug generation. And I started practicing yoga instead of taking drugs.
Alors, le Swami qui l'a pris en charge l'a sauvé parce qu'à l'époque, il y avait un fléau de la drogue aux États-Unis. Et ce Swami lui a permis d'échapper à ça.
So one day I was at a yoga class, and unknown to me, it was a day of Guru Purnima. And the special guest was an American Swami, Swami Nirmalananda, who was a disciple of Anandamayi Ma and had just come from India with Ma. This was like 1972.
Alors en 1972, dans ce contexte, il y a un Swami qui est venu d'Inde, qui était un disciple direct d'Anandamayi Ma.
So I had never heard of her, even though I'd read the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, in which she has a whole chapter, but I didn't make the connection. So I'd never heard of her, so I didn't know who she was.
Alors, il ne connaissait pas du tout Anandamayi Ma. Il avait lu quelques lignes à son sujet, mais il n'avait aucune connaissance de la Divine Mère.
So he was showing, this was long before video cameras. He had a little 8mm roll of film he had just taken of being with Ma. So he was showing on the wall pictures of Ma walking back and forth and all this. I was interested because she was fascinating, but it didn't mean anything to me.
Alors, et en fait, c'était avant les DVD, avant même la VHS. Alors, il y a eu un petit film sur Ma qui avait été projeté avec une caméra Super 8. Et il avait vu ces belles images de Ma qui marchaient le long de la plage, etc. Mais ça n'avait pas de signification pour lui à ce stade.
And then there was one scene where Ma walked out of a building down a sidewalk and got into a waiting car. It was because she was going to go somewhere and he was filming her. And she leaned over the car door and looked into the camera, and her face filled the whole screen.
Alors, en fait, il y avait un moment dans le film où on voit Ma en vraiment gros plan. Elle apparaît énorme sur l'image.
And there were many people in the room, but I felt she looked right at me, and she looked and she looked and she looked and she studied, and then she went, whoa, and gave me this zap. And I thought, wow.
Alors donc, en regardant, il avait l'impression que c'était Anandamayi Ma le regardait, et il y a eu un véritable contact qui s'est fait. Et que c'était vraiment, qu'elle était vraiment vivante en face de lui, là, maintenant.
I kept in touch with the Swami. I later saw that same film, and I asked him if it was unedited. It was the exact same film, and that was not in it. In the film, when I saw it later, I was waiting for that good part. She walked out of the building, got in the car, and drove off. That whole part was not in the film.
Wow.
So only I saw it. And this is a very typical Ma miracle. She would do things where only the person intended saw it.
Alors, en fait, I'm gonna try to translate it so strong. En fait, des années plus tard, Acharya a revu le film avec d'autres swamis. Il n'y avait jamais eu ce passage d'Anandamayi Ma en gros plan dans le film. Donc, c'était un darshan spécial pour Acharya. Ça n'avait jamais été dans le film.
Ma, I know other people also who had this experience where Ma did something where only they saw it or heard it. Ma could have alternate realities going, and it happened once with me also.
Donc, Ma était capable de créer des réalités alternatives que seul un ou deux disciples pouvaient voir.
We were, I think, in the city of Kanpur, and I would always come early to the Satsang so I could sit right next to where Ma would sit and kind of look up at her. And so I was sitting, there was a field, maybe 50, 60 people sitting in it, and Ma was sitting there. I was sitting right next to where she sat, and people were singing kirtan, and everybody's attention was glued on Ma. There was nothing, everyone was staring right at Ma.
Alors, un jour, il était en satsang, il y avait plein de gens qui regardaient uniquement Ma. Il était assis juste à côté d'elle parce qu'il voulait être le plus proche possible de Ma.
And suddenly she leaned way over and put her face right in front of mine and spoke several sentences in Bengali, like instructions, like da 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 ba 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 ba. Several sentences, very strong, very thing. Then she sat back up.
Alors, à un moment, elle s'est penchée vers Acharya, elle a commencé à lui communiquer des instructions dans la langue du Bengale, et des instructions très claires et très précises, et puis elle s'est rassise, elle s'est remise à sa place.
I didn't understand what she said, so I asked someone next to her, Brahmacharya, I said, what did Ma say? What did Ma say? I didn't know what she said.
Alors, il s'est penché à un moment vers un autre swami, il a dit, je ne comprends pas le bengali, alors est-ce que tu peux me traduire ce que Ma vient de dire, s'il te plaît?
And she said, what? What are you saying? No, Ma didn't say anything. I asked several people around me, what did Ma say?
Alors, en fait, le swami ne comprenait pas parce que Ma n'avait pas du tout bougé, ne s'était pas du tout rapproché d'Acharya, et personne ne l'avait vu s'approcher d'Acharya pour lui dire quelque chose en bengali.
And after the satsang, I asked many people, no one saw it. Everyone said, no, Ma was just sitting there. Ma didn't lean over and say anything to you. So only she had alternate reality. She spoke something that went deep into my soul, but no one else saw it.
Alors voilà, après il a interrogé tous les gens du satsang, vous avez bien vu Ma en train de me parler en bengali, et tout le monde a dit non, on n'a pas vu ça. Et donc Ma était capable de créer ces réalités alternatives, parallèles, précises pour un niveau. Ouais.
During that time with Ma, I had several privates with Ma where I asked her questions about my spiritual life and things, but for some reason it never occurred to me to ask what she said, because I think it accomplished what she meant. I think she just said something deep in my soul. I didn't need to know it with my mind.
Alors, il a eu beaucoup de réunions privées avec Ma, mais ça ne lui est jamais venu à l'idée de poser la question à Ma, mais qu'est-ce que vous m'avez dit en bengali? Parce qu'en fait, ces instructions-là, elles étaient allées directement au cœur de l'âme. Elles ne nécessitaient aucune explication complémentaire.
But to answer the second question, it's hard to say because every moment with Ma was precious.
Chaque moment avec Ma, alors concernant la question, est-ce que vous avez un souvenir particulier avec Ma? Chaque moment avec Ma était précieux.
But a very dear memory to me is, Ma traveled constantly from 1932 to 1982 without stop, just going from place to place. So to be with Ma was to travel with her a lot.
Alors, Ma voyageait énormément. De 1932 à 1982, elle a voyagé non-stop. Et donc, être avec Ma, c'était voyager avec elle.
So one time we were at the Kankal ashram next to Hardwar in northern India, in the Himalayan foothills.
Alors un jour, on était à l'ashram de Kankal, au pied de l'Himalaya.
And I came into the ashram and Ma was chasing people around, but she had flower garlands in her arm, and she was chasing the devotees around, and she was putting garlands on them. It was just a game, and they were saying, "Oh, Ma, you can't garland us. No, it's not right." Yeah. But she was going and she was making sure she got everybody a garland on, all the ashramites who lived there.
Alors Ma, un jour, elle s'est mise à courir derrière tout le monde dans l'ashram pour leur mettre des guirlandes de fleurs. Mais c'était comme un jeu, elle voulait attraper tout le monde et mettre une guirlande de fleurs.
It was very joyful and very sweet. And I just walked in, so I was just standing to the side of the Shiva temple, and I was watching all this with great joy. And Ma finished the whole Leela and then just went inside, and everybody was gone.
Et donc, voilà, tout le monde a reçu son collier de fleurs, et puis tout le monde est parti.
But then as I was still standing there, Ma came back out of the door all alone with a big, beautiful flower. And she very gently, very almost humbly came up and gave it to me. And I took it and I looked into her eyes and I just fell at her feet. And then she walked back.
Alors Ma ensuite est sortie. Elle est venue avec une très belle fleur. Elle l'a présentée à Acharya de manière très humble, et Acharya s'est prosterné aux pieds de la Divine Mère, avec tout l'amour du dévot.
And just her vibe was so sweet and so motherly and so inclusive and nurturing. It just like filled my whole soul. And still to this day, whenever I go to that ashram, I put a flower there on the ground right where she stood when she gave me that and bow again at her feet.
Alors, à chaque fois que Acharya a l'opportunité de retourner à l'ashram de Kankal, il dépose une fleur exactement à l'endroit où Ma lui a donné une fleur. Il y a des années de ça. Beautiful.
Let me say something real quick in introduction. All of you here have been touched by Ma. Ma said many times, no one can even think of me unless I first think of them.
Alors, il y a une chose très importante que vous devez savoir, c'est que chacun et chacune d'entre vous ici, vous avez été touché par la grâce d'Ananda Mahima. Parce que vous ne pouvez pas penser à Ananda Mahima avant qu'elle n'ait pensé à vous.
So people ask, how can I have Ma's grace?
Les gens se posent la question, mais comment puis-je recevoir la grâce de la Divine Mère?
If Ma has had any attraction to you, if Ma has brought you here to this satsang, if you have a desire to know more of Ma, this is because her grace has touched you. There's no doubt of that.
Si vous êtes ici en satsang avec moi aujourd'hui, si vous écoutez et vous entendez des histoires de Ma, c'est Ma qui vous a invité. C'est par la grâce de Ma que vous êtes en présence aujourd'hui.
We have Ma's paduka here, her sandals that she wore on her feet.
Wow. Vous voyez ici sur l'autel d'Acharya, vous avez les sandales de Ma. Je ne sais pas si vous les voyez, juste en dessous. Ce sont les sandales de Ma.
Go ahead. This is a special gift from a friend of mine, Haripriya, who an American devotee of Ma, who spent many, many years with Ma, from 1960 to 1982, and who I put her ashes in the Ganga when she passed away, but she gave me this special gift. I'll explain it.
Alors, un autre dévot d'Ananda Mahima a fait un cadeau très, très particulier à Acharya, un disciple qui est resté avec moi de 1960 à 1982.
So Haripriya was a Vaishnava, a devotee of Krishna, as well as Ma was her guru. So she loved, for her, the dust of Vrindavan was holy. The dirt of Vrindavan was holy.
Alors, ce disciple était un adorateur de Vishnu, et pour lui, la poussière, la terre de Vrindavan était sacrée.
So one time she was in Ma's Vrindavan ashram with Ma.
Alors, un jour, il était à l'ashram de Vrindavan avec Ma.
And Ma was walking around the grounds, and Haripriya was following her. And at one point, Ma stood for almost half an hour talking to one Swami or some devotee at one spot. She stood in one spot for about half an hour, speaking, then she moved on.
Alors, Ma, à un moment, à l'ashram de Vrindavan, elle est restée fixe en un seul endroit. Elle a parlé pendant 30 minutes avec une autre personne de l'ashram.
So Haripriya, like a true devotee, went and dug up the dirt, the sand, from where Ma was standing. And this is the earth of Vrindavan that Ma stood on.
Alors voilà, c'est très spécial parce que ça, c'est la terre sur laquelle Ma s'est tenue pendant 30 minutes. Donc cette terre, en contactant les pieds de la Divine Mère, est devenue sacrée. Et c'est ce que vous voyez dans le petit flacon. Magnificent.
To lovers, any memory of the beloved is precious.
Great, fantastic. We can feel the love of Ma now. Really.
More questions?
Est-ce que quelqu'un souhaite poser une question à Acharya? I have a list, Acharya, don't worry.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to open the floor now for different questions for people. You can raise your hand using vous pouvez utiliser la main jaune et je traduirai votre question pour Acharya. Ok. Muriel, namaskar. Tu as la parole.
Namaskar. Pas de questions, juste un énorme merci pour tout ça. Merci.
So Muriel just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for this. Oh. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Did we talk about how I wrote a book in English on Ma, and it's been translated into French? Yeah, so you can read it. It gives a more of a introduction to Ma's life. Yeah.
Voilà. Alors, Acharya a écrit un livre. J'avais communiqué le lien quand j'ai annoncé cette rencontre. Donc, a écrit un livre qui était en anglais et qui a été traduit en français sous le nom Le Divin parmi nous. Et je communiquerai les informations concernant ce livre dans la description de cette vidéo, puisque cette vidéo va être retransmise ensuite sur YouTube.
Someone wrote a question in the chat, but I can't. It's in French, so I can't understand it.
Actually, it's not a question. It's like yeah. Swamiji, it's not a question. It's like, yeah, we are so happy. We are feeling the love of Ma. Shivers. That's what's right. Thank you, magnificent Shivers. So I have a question in the chat now. Did Ma have many faces? That is, she could be like Kali one day, and have you seen that? Like she could be Kali one day, and Sarasvati the other day, and I don't know, Gayatri the third day or something?
Yeah. It's written historically, many people saw Ma as their Ishtadevata. I mean, they were looking at Ma and suddenly they saw Krishna or Shiva or Kali.
Quand les gens regardaient Ma, ils voyaient leur divinité de choix, soit Kali, soit Shiva, soit Krishna. Ils ne voyaient que ça. Ils ne voyaient pas Ma.
And Ma said, people see me according to their own samskaras, their own inner tendencies.
Ma disait, les gens me voient tels que sont leurs croyances, telles que sont leurs tendances profondes, les samskaras.
I personally never had that experience, but Ma would very often look differently physically from moment to moment. Sometimes she would be very old looking, and the next minute you look and she'd be totally young looking. Many people experience that. I did experience that.
Alors, donc Acharya n'a pas fait l'expérience des divinités, mais par contre, il a vu Ma rajeunir à vue d'œil. C'est-à-dire que la journée commençait, Ma avait son âge, et puis tout d'un coup, elle rajeunissait d'une dizaine, une vingtaine, une trentaine d'années. C'était extraordinaire.
And she would express many different bhavas or moods, like spiritual moods.
Donc, elle exprimait beaucoup de sentiments spirituels.
Sometimes she'd be very animated, very almost like childish, girlish, talking and laughing and telling jokes.
Alors, parfois, elle était très comme une petite fille, elle riait, elle racontait des histoires.
Sometimes she'd be very endrawn and very still.
Parfois, elle était immobile.
Sometimes she would be so powerful, it would literally be frightening. One time she walked by me coming out to get in the car, and it was almost scary. She was just so powerful.
Et parfois, elle était tellement puissante, elle faisait presque peur.
But the experience cannot be, Ma is with us now always, we know that, but the experience of being with her physically cannot be captured with words.
Alors, Ma est présente parmi nous, mais l'expérience de la présence physique de Ma ne peut pas être décrite par la parole.
Because it was truly a darshan. When Ma walked into the room and my eyes rested on her, my own mind and being would wake up in a way I didn't know existed. Parts of me would be awake just by the very darshan of her. She would wake up your own heart and mind.
Le simple fait de voir Ma éveillait le cœur et l'esprit de manière indescriptible.
And she would invoke these deep soul emotions and feelings of familiarity with her, of love for her, of awesomeness. They were like so deep, much deeper in the mind. She would just pull out things from your own soul inside of you.
Donc elle faisait émerger, par sa seule présence, elle faisait émerger des choses qui étaient profondément enfouies.
Wherever we were at night, we would always sit with Ma and sing kirtan and do bhajans, and Ma would just sit and give darshan, and then later, sometimes she would answer questions, sometimes not. But to just sit with her and look at her and sing like Baiji's hymn, you wouldn't know you were in this world. You would think you were in a different plane of existence. It was the atmosphere was so rarefied, so uplifted.
Quand on était en bhajan, quand on était en satsang avec Ma, l'atmosphère était vraiment très particulière. On avait l'impression d'être sur un autre plan de conscience, un autre monde.
And we always felt we wanted to just put our problems before Ma, put our life before Ma, and we knew if she just saw it, if we just spoke it, everything would be all right.
Alors, il y avait de nombreux disciples et de nombreux amis qui venaient, qui voulaient expliquer leurs problèmes dans la vie. Mais le simple fait d'être en présence avec elle, tous les problèmes disparaissaient du champ de conscience.
If you ask Ma for a private, we call it a private, when you yourself talk to Ma privately, she would always grant it. Sometimes it would be a few days. She would say, come on this day and this day, because she was so busy, but she would always give time to anyone who asked to have a private.
Elle accordait toujours une audience à toute personne qui lui demandait une audience. Malgré un emploi du temps de fou, elle était toujours là, toujours disponible.
And now I speak fluent Hindi, but in those days I just spoke a little bit. So it would be just me, Ma, and someone who would translate Ma's words back and forth.
Alors à l'époque, maintenant Acharya parle hindi couramment, mais à l'époque, il y avait toujours un interprète.
And I learned I would have to write. I learned how I would have to write my questions down because I have to write my questions down before I came in.
Alors, il fallait écrire ces questions avant de venir voir Ma.
Because I would come in and sit down and look up, and Ma would be looking down at me with such compassion and love and sweetness. Everything was all right. I wouldn't have any questions, and I would just sit there, so I'd have to have my list.
Ok. Simplement, quand il était en présence avec Ma, elle le regardait avec tellement d'amour, tellement de compassion que son cœur fondait, qu'il n'y avait plus aucune question. Il y avait juste le silence et la béatitude.
One time we'd been in a very small village, a holy village called Naimisharanya in Uttar Pradesh.
Alors, une fois, on est allé dans un village qui s'appelait Uttamcharanya dans l'Uttar Pradesh, la région.
Ma has a very small little ashram there.
Ma avait un petit ashram là.
And there were only about a dozen people there. So we had great satsangs at night. Just really the whole ashram, there were just about 12 of us.
Donc, il y avait simplement une douzaine de personnes là. Donc, les satsangs qui ont été organisés là-bas étaient vraiment extraordinaires.
And then Ma was going back to Haridwar. So a friend of mine who I was traveling with, another brahmachari, we just went with her to the railway station.
Alors, il y avait un ami, Ma devait se rendre à Haridwar, et donc elle devait se diriger à la gare.
And we got to sit with her in the waiting room for like over an hour, just her, and I think there was an attendant with her. And I just sat right in front of her, and she just never took her eyes off me for the whole time.
Donc, elle était là, ils se sont assis en attendant le train, il fallait s'asseoir dans une pièce. Et là, Ma s'est mise à regarder Acharya de manière soutenue. Elle ne l'a pas quitté des yeux pendant 1 heure.
And occasionally she would ask me questions about my practice, and she would give me some different advice.
Alors, des fois, elle me donnait des conseils sur ma pratique spirituelle.
And some of the advice didn't become relevant until literally like 35 years later when I was living in India. And I realized, oh, Ma was seeing this and giving me advice for now because it didn't apply until then.
Alors, Ma a donné des conseils à Acharya qui n'ont été applicables que des dizaines et des dizaines d'années plus tard, comme si elle avait vu le futur d'Acharya.
And I felt like during that time, and Ma was looking at me just nonstop, I felt like she was seeing my entire, at the time even, I felt like she was seeing my entire life ahead of me.
Elle était capable de voir la vie entière des personnes qui se tenaient devant elle.
So over the years, when I went through very difficult times, sometimes very difficult years, I would still think, it's okay, Ma's already seen this, so it's going to come out okay.
Alors, lorsqu'il y a eu des moments plus difficiles dans la vie d'Acharya, il y avait toujours cette idée que Ma avait tout déjà vu, tout déjà prévu et que tout allait être pour le mieux.
Any other questions?
Oh yeah, we have a lot. Let me see, because is Bhakti Yoga the best way? That's one of the questions. Because Ma spoke about it, that is love and devotion are the best way to remember the self, basically. So, yeah. Est-ce que la voie de la dévotion est la meilleure?
The 12 years I lived in Ma's ashram in India, the head of the ashram, the Mahant, was a great Ma saint named Swami Kedarnath.
Alors, les 12 ans que Acharya a passé, il était avec un grand Swami, un grand saint qui s'appelait Swami Kedarnath.
And he was not only a great yogi, he was a very erudite scholar and author.
Donc, ce Swami Kedarnath, ce n'était pas simplement un grand yogi, mais c'était aussi un érudit.
And he compiled all of Ma's sayings that we have in books and letters and everything, all the things Ma said, he compiled into I think a 16-volume set. Unfortunately, it's all in Hindi. And so we studied Ma's words and teachings so intensely so we could see the overall picture of what was there, what she was saying.
Alors, ce Swami, en fait, il a compilé tous les enseignements de Ma dans une collection en 16 volumes, qui est malheureusement uniquement disponible en hindi. Et il y avait une idée majeure qui se dégageait de la lecture de ces 16 volumes.
And Ma instructed each person individually according to what they needed.
Donc, Ma, elle donnait des instructions individuelles. Elle ne donnait pas une instruction générale.
But at the same time, there are overall patterns in her instructions and speech that she most frequently used.
mais en même temps, il y avait une direction, un cadre.
So to answer the question, go ahead, French.
Pour répondre à la question.
Ma spoke from a level of absolute Advaita, absolute non-duality. She spoke from just, she said there was no separation, only unity. She spoke from that level of absolute Vedanta.
Donc, pour bien comprendre, Ma était une Advaita Vedantine, c'est-à-dire qu'elle parlait du point de vue de la non-séparation, de la non-dualité absolue.
Everything arose from unity and dissolved back into unity.
Tout surgit de l'unité et retourne à l'unité.
But practically speaking, from that level, the main instruction she gave, and the main advice she gave, and the main recommendation she gave was all within Bhakti Yoga.
Mais en termes pratiques, elle donnait toujours des instructions qui étaient relatives à la voie de la dévotion, la Bhakti Marga.
She stressed, always remember God, always think of God, always pray to God, dedicate your life to God.
Donc elle disait, pensez à Dieu, souvenez-vous du Seigneur, toujours.
And the main tool she used, she always told to everyone, was the name of God, the mantra, the holy name of God.
Donc, on va dire l'instrument favori de Ma, c'était la répétition des noms du Seigneur, le Nama Japa, la répétition des noms du Seigneur.
And literally speaking, whether it was a high government official visiting her or a prostitute, literally, and everything in between, she would say, take the name of God.
Alors que ce soit un membre du gouvernement indien ou que ce soit quelqu'un de la réputation plus douteuse, eh bien, Ma donnait toujours la même instruction. Répétez le nom du Seigneur, toujours.
So Ma said nothing new because there are no new truths. She didn't come up with something new. She gave more power to the traditional way. She said everything in your shastras you say are correct. She empowered the deep traditional way of all religions.
Donc, Ma n'a jamais raconté quelque chose de nouveau. Au contraire, elle a, on va dire, vivifié la tradition des textes sacrés, la tradition védique. C'était son rôle, c'était relancer cette flamme.
And her words are in agreement with all the major teachers and basically all the world's religions.
Et ses enseignements étaient absolument en accord avec les enseignements de tous les grands enseignants de toutes les voies religieuses.
And she did say for this age, Bhakti Yoga is the safest and quickest and easiest path.
Elle disait qu'à notre époque, Kali Yuga, la voie de la dévotion était la voie la plus sûre et la plus rapide.
There is absolute validity to the path of Vedanta and the path of Atma Vichara, self-inquiry.
Il y a une validité certaine sur la voie de l'investigation du soi et sur la voie de l'Advaita Vedanta.
And Ma did recommend that to people who had that inclination and samskara.
Et Ma recommandait la voie de la Jnana, donc la voie de la connaissance du soi par l'introspection à ceux qui avaient cela en eux.
And in my own life, I have seen people who have gone that path and have really gone astray and been misled by the ego.
Et il y a certaines personnes qui, malheureusement, prenant la voie de l'Advaita Vedanta, ont été égarées par leur propre ego.
But the path of just being a child in full surrender to the divine, however we think of the divine, because there's no dogmatic definition of God in Bhakti Yoga, the Ishta, the beloved of our heart, that path has such a safeguard in that we surrender our every prana in our body to God. So we're guided by Ma then so perfectly, and we become such instruments in her hands. It's much safer than.
Alors quand on se présente comme un jeune enfant en face du Seigneur et qu'on dépose tous nos conditionnements, tous nos regrets, notre mental au pied du Seigneur, c'est un chemin beaucoup plus sûr.
Plus, in the path of Vedanta, you have nothing to hold on to in a sense. You're renouncing everything. You're saying neti, neti, not this, not this. But Ma's way was iti, iti, all this, everything is a manifestation of the divine. So at every point you have a support to hold on to.
Alors, la voie du Vedanta, en général, est décrite par neti neti, ce qui veut dire je ne suis pas ceci, je ne suis pas cela. Ananda Mahima avait une autre approche. Elle disait eti eti, ce qui veut dire je suis cela, je suis cela, je suis cela.
Going back to Ma's teachings and our in-depth studying of Ma's teachings, there's one point that the main tool is Nam Jap, but then the philosophical side is also very important, what Ma constantly presented.
Alors, Ma, c'était toujours une alliance entre la philosophie, la sagesse, mais aussi la pratique. Donc, il y avait toujours les deux.
She would emphasize 1,000 times over in so many ways, everything is divine. She would say, Sab Bhagavan He, all is God. So that everything that comes to us, every experience comes to us is the divine. Everything we're seeing and experiencing is the divine. This was her way.
Alors, Ma disait, tout est divin, absolument tout. Toutes les expériences que nous faisons, toutes les perceptions, tout est absolument divin. C'était l'enseignement de Ma.
So Swami Kedarnath, who was leading our sadhana in Ma in those days, in those years, has said, when you're in meditation, you're looking inward, you're watching your breath, you're saying a mantra, but then when you come out of meditation, don't let the meditation end there.
Voilà, donc Swami Kedarnath, qui dirigeait à l'époque la pratique dans les ashrams de Ma, disait que la méditation, ce n'était pas quelque chose qui devait rester compris dans une certaine tranche horaire, c'était quelque chose qui devait se prolonger toute la journée.
He would say, learn to accept the fact. You don't make it happen, you accept the fact. He used the verb swikarakarana in Hindi. You accept the fact that everything manifested is Ma, the very light you're seeing, the very building blocks of what you're seeing as objects or the light of Ma.
Alors, vous devez accepter, simplement, vous devez accepter la réalité que tout est Ma, que chaque petite pièce du puzzle que vous observez tous les jours est Ma, même la petite brique de votre maison.
And if you hold this, first it'll be just an intellectual concept, but if you hold it day after day, year after year, it will ripen into the actual experience.
Si vous maintenez cette conviction jour après jour, alors cela va mûrir et va devenir votre véritable expérience quotidienne.
One time I asked him, we called him Baba. I said, Baba, do you ever miss that wonderful form of Ma that we love so much?
Alors un jour, j'ai demandé à ce Swami, est-ce que vous vous rappelez d'une forme particulière de Ma que nous aimions tellement?
And his reply surprised me. Anyway, I thought it was very good.
Alors, sa réponse m'a surprise. Mais j'ai pensé que c'était bien et que je le partage avec vous.
He became very animated and he said, no, how could I?
Alors, le Swami a dit, mais comment je pourrais préférer une forme de Ma par rapport à une autre?
He said 6 months after I was practicing what Ma gave me, because he was already a sannyasi. He'd been with another guru who sent him to Ma. He'd done a lot of sadhanas. He was very advanced. So 6 months after he began practicing what Ma had told him.
Alors, 6 mois après qu'il ait commencé, que ce Swami ait commencé à pratiquer avec Ma, il y a eu cet échange.
The experience came where I saw Ma as everything.
Une expérience est venue, j'ai vu Ma comme étant absolument tout.
And he said that experience never left me.
Et cette expérience ne m'a jamais quitté.
So he was sitting at his desk and he picked up a pencil and he said, I don't see this as a pencil, I see it as Ma. I see everything as Ma.
Alors ce Swami disait, prenez un stylo et il disait, mais vous voyez bien que c'est Ma. Tout est Ma.
He said, how can I miss something which I'm experiencing moment to moment?
Quelque chose peut me manquer alors que je fais l'expérience de Ma constamment.
I found that very inspirational. I think that can be an inspiration to all of us to try to continue our sadhana to enter into that state.
Alors c'était une grande inspiration pour Acharya et c'est un encouragement qu'il nous donne pour justement pratiquer cette observation permanente du divin en tout. Thank you. So I'm going to see question from the question, but I think you already gave that. Okay. Did she suggest a particular mantra for japa, or was she leaving that to every devotee? I mean, depending upon their
I'm sorry, I
own.
couldn't understand. What was the question again? Please repeat it.
Did she have a preferred mantra that she was giving?
No. Some teachers or some lineages have like one mantra, Om Namah Shivaya or Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. No, Ma was so universal that she really did instruct everyone exactly to what they needed, and she would give the mantra that was their ishta. She would, and it was very much individual.
Donc Ma ne donnait pas un mantra standard à tout le monde parce qu'elle était tellement universelle que chacun recevait un mantra selon sa propre histoire, son propre parcours spirituel.
So you will find in Ma's ashram, the devotees who live there, and all the devotees who visit, everyone will have different ishtas. Some you will have different gurus, but they look on Ma as the Divine Mother. So everyone is just like a mother hen who keeps all her chicks under her wings. Everyone's there. Ma brings them all together, but everyone has their own individual way of going.
Donc dans les ashrams de Ma, il y avait des gens avec des croyances et des foi totalement différentes. Des gens qui avaient même des gourous qui n'étaient pas Ma, mais Ma était considérée par tous comme la Divine Mère et elle accueillait tous les dévots, quelles que soient leurs origines, quelles que soient leurs croyances, comme une mère accueille ses enfants.
Within our tradition, there is a Devi Bija mantra, which is considered Ma's, which is given through one of the people that Ma passed that on to give it, like Swami Bhaskarnanda, Swami Nirvananandaji. But unfortunately, those Swamis are all passed away now. So I received it from Swami Bhaskarnanda, but that's not possible.
Voilà, il y avait un mantra qui avait été passé, un mantra traditionnel qui avait été passé de maître à disciple, mais ces maîtres ont disparu maintenant.
But within our lineage, Bhayaji, who was Jyotish Chandra Roy, who was one of the earliest devotees of Ma.
Alors, mais il y a dans la lignée de Ma, il y a un dévot qui s'appelait Bhayaji.
He wrote the first biography of Ma.
Il a écrit la première biographie de Ma.
And he passed away with Ma's hand on his head, saying her name.
Donc il est mort sur les genoux de Ma qui avait la main sur son front.
Many things in our tradition come from him.
Il y a beaucoup de choses qui viennent de lui dans la tradition que nous suivons.
Because he showed us perfectly how to follow Ma.
Il a montré à tous comment suivre l'exemple de Ma.
And one thing he started was in her ashram, her first ashram back in Bengal in the 1920s, was chanting the name of Ma and doing japa of the name of Ma, which wasn't done before.
Alors c'est lui qui en fait a mis en place la tradition de chanter des bhajans en utilisant le nom de Ma, ce qui n'était pas fait auparavant.
And he was in a sense the rishi of this mantra Om Ma.
Et donc c'est lui qui a été celui qui a inventé en quelque sorte le mantra Om Ma.
So simple.
Voilà, c'est Bhayaji, c'est grâce à lui que nous avons ce mantra.
But he found when a person uttered this mantra, the inner form of Ma would appear in their subtle body.
Donc en récitant ce mantra, eh bien la forme de Ma apparaissait dans le corps subtil.
So this is the very main way we invoke Ma in our lineage.
Donc la façon dont nous invoquons Ma, c'est simplement en utilisant ce mantra de Dieu, Om Ma.
And some of my friends and I who were with Ma tried an experiment one time.
Alors quelques amis qui sont des adorateurs de Ma ont essayé cette expérience une fois.
We were at like a Samyan Sapta, which is one of their week-long retreats where Ma would always emphasize.
Nous étions dans une retraite de 7 jours.
So Ma would be sitting on the stage over here, and some Mahatma would be giving a talk here, and we were all sitting in front. We were looking at Ma, but somebody would be talking.
Alors, on était dans cette retraite de 7 jours, et puis il y avait quelqu'un qui parlait, mais on était tous en train de regarder, évidemment, la Divine Mère, Ma.
So we found that if we just invoked mentally, Om Ma, Om Ma, Om Ma, mentally.
Et si on s'est dit, tiens, si on prononce simplement, mentalement, le mantra, Om Ma, Om Ma.
Out of the whole crowd, there may be 100 people there, Ma's eyes would be immediately just riveted to us. As long as you said the mantra, maybe stop saying the mantra, she would look away.
Alors, dès qu'on se mettait à prononcer le mantra mentalement, Alors Ananda Mahima tournait le regard vers nous. Dès qu'on arrêtait, elle regardait ailleurs. Elle
So
nous
that was a
entendait.
test.
C'était le test.
Another wonderful thing, Ma always read the hearts. If you spoke to her from the heart, she always responded.
Alors, Ma lisait dans nos cœurs. Elle répondait toujours avec le cœur.
And it happened on several occasions where we've been waiting for evening darshan, and either an important visitor would come or Ma was indisposed. So someone would come out and say, Ma is not coming out for darshan tonight.
Alors, parfois Ma n'était pas disponible. Elle n'avait pas la santé pour participer à une cérémonie ou permettre aux fidèles de la voir, ce qu'on appelle le darshan.
We found that if we went, we would go stand under the window of her room.
Et on a découvert que si on se tenait tous sous la fenêtre de sa chambre,
and just mentally, with no sound, but from our heart, just think, oh Ma, oh Ma, oh Ma.
Et si on prononçait simplement, mentalement, oh Ma,
Ma would always, the shutters would open, Ma would come out and see who was calling her and pranam to us and bless us.
Donc Ma ouvrait la fenêtre, elle entendait même la répétition du nom mentalement, et elle faisait pranam à ceux qui prononçaient cela.
You didn't have to use this voice, you had to use this voice.
Donc la voix on n'avait pas besoin d'utiliser le son articulé, c'était la voix du cœur.
Does that answer the question? I forget what the question was now.
That's perfect. That was about the mantra, so I think
okay.
We get that.
Yeah, oh Ma is very good for invoking Ma. Just oh Ma, wonderful. And Ma herself, when people would ask Ma, can we use this month? They're thinking of you. She would approve. She would say, this is the name of God. You know, she didn't say, oh no. She had no ego, but she knew she was God. So she would say this. She would approve of saying, oh Ma, thinking of her.
Voilà. Et donc Ma était tout à fait comment dire, ouverte à cela, et tout allait. Et oh Ma particulièrement. Donc si vous voulez invoquer le nom, si vous voulez penser à Ananda Mahima, oh Ma est très bien. Testez, approuvé. I'm looking at other questions. I have somebody who has raised the hand since a while. Sita, sorry. I got caught by the conversation. Je suis laissé emmener par la conversation. So you have the floor.
Pas de souci.
Sita, you can even ask the question in English if you want.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Thank you for being here with us, Acharya. My question is, in this path for us, one of the main difficulties is to accept that there is what we call bad things, for instance, wars, things that happen to kids, etc. And I wanted to know if she had an answer for that when someone asked her about that. What was her answer? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sita. That's a very good question. Georgie, do you want to translate that into French?
Voilà. Merci Sita. Quand on parle de guerre, quand on parle de violence contre les enfants, etc., quelle était la réponse de Ma à ce sujet? Qu'est-ce qu'elle disait?
First of all, Ma one time said, your suffering, your sorrow also is of this body. I feel everything, and I'm with you in every sorrow.
Donc, Ma disait, toutes les souffrances, je les ressens. Elles sont dans mon corps.
So Ma was in no way hard-hearted or inattentive to our suffering or the suffering of the world. In no way. On the opposite, it all went through her.
Donc, Ma n'était pas du tout insensible à la douleur du monde. Au contraire, elle le ressentait pleinement.
But at the same time, she saw everything from the highest pinnacle. She saw the whole wide picture of evolution and what was happening.
En même temps, Ma voyait les choses du plus haut point de vue. Et donc, sa vision était beaucoup plus large que ce que nous voyons nous.
So one time in the 1940s, I think it was like 43, during World War II, while World War II was going on, things were even worse than they are today. I mean, the entire world was at war.
Alors, en 1943, durant la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, le monde était vraiment déchiré.
Someone asked Ma, when will the world be perfect?
Alors, quelqu'un a dit, mais Ma, quand est-ce que le monde va être parfait?
And Ma simply smiled and said, it already is.
Et Ma a dit, c'est déjà parfait.
And it was shocking, so she explained it more.
Alors la personne était choquée, elle s'est mise à expliquer.
She said, this world is not meant to be a utopia of pleasure.
Elle a dit, ce monde ne va pas être une utopie uniquement constituée de plaisir.
This world is a tough school for learning experiences, for reaping karma, for waking us up to our true nature.
Ce monde est une école difficile qui nous permet de nous purifier de notre karma et de nous libérer et d'atteindre notre véritable nature.
And two factors are at work.
Il y avait deux facteurs en jeu.
First, karma has to be fulfilled. Whatever has been sown has to come to fruition. And so many times it's very, very painful.
La première chose, c'est que tout ce qui a été semé doit être récolté. Donc tout ce qui a été accompli aura des conséquences.
And secondly, Ma said that many times God uses suffering as the means for awakening us to the true nature of ourselves. Suffering awakens us to what the nature of this world is and where we need to really go.
Le Seigneur utilise la souffrance comme un outil pour nous éveiller à notre véritable nature.
And she said many times, haven't you seen what this world is? There is no peace in this world. There is no ultimate joy in this world.
Et souvent, il était dit, il n'y a pas de paix dans ce monde. Il n'y a pas de joie durable dans ce monde.
She said, the minute you just turn your face towards God and start on that path towards God, then only is there peace and fulfillment.
C'est seulement lorsque vous tournez votre regard vers le Seigneur que vous allez ressentir la plénitude et la paix.
And the real
We had a slight interruption
Okay.
of service.
Okay, I was saying the real purpose of this world is to show us that in it there is no ultimate satisfaction, that it cannot satisfy our deepest soul.
Le monde nous montre qu'il ne peut pas y avoir de satisfaction parfaite. Ça ne nous permet pas de. La seule satisfaction possible, c'est de nous connaître nous-mêmes.
So Ma said many times, I never have told anyone to leave the world and go to the jungle and ignore the responsibilities.
Ma disait aux gens, je vous ai jamais dit d'aller dans la jungle et d'abandonner toutes vos responsabilités.
She was emphatic. She said, where you are at this time is where you're supposed to be, where your karma is brought you.
Elle disait, là où vous êtes aujourd'hui, ici et maintenant, est là où vous devez être. Il n'y avait pas d'autre solution.
She said, what is required is to wake up and change your outlook and your attitude and see that everything that is happening is a lesson that you have to learn, face and conquer and overcome and grow by.
Tout est une leçon que nous devons apprendre. Nous devons apprendre à surmonter cela et cela nous permet de grandir spirituellement.
And that's where the wonderful practicality of Ma's presence comes in.
Et c'est là que l'aspect pratique merveilleux de Ma se manifeste.
We don't want her just to heal our diseases or give us good things of this world.
Nous ne cherchons pas uniquement à guérir nos maladies ou à profiter des bonnes choses de ce monde.
Her presence, her blessing and mercy and grace gives us the strength to face all these things and to see them in the correct perspective and to see them as tools for our awakening.
Sa présence et sa grâce nous permettent de changer de perspective et sont un instrument pour notre propre éveil.
Ma, now, even though she's left her body, it's no different. She is a source of strength, a source of inspiration, a source of real intense spiritual power that if we turn to her, we can draw upon to continue our sadhana, to face life's difficulties and to experience her joy. Her presence is joy and peace and bliss.
Alors, même si Ananda Mahima n'est plus incarnée physiquement, sa puissance est toujours là et la joie qu'elle dispense, cette joie immense est toujours là avec nous.
This world is a harsh place, and it always will be. Just accented with short periods of temporary satisfaction, happiness, going back to misery. That's the nature of the world.
Le monde est une place, est un endroit difficile. Des petits moments de joie seront toujours suivis de moments de tristesse.
But Ma's nature is stability, is the depths of the self, is unending, always bliss.
La nature de Ma, c'est la stabilité, c'est la joie sans interruption.
She said many times, she is the self of ourself.
Elle a dit plusieurs fois, je suis le soi du soi,
When
l'essence.
people come to her, people say, Ma, so-and-so has come for your darshan.
Alors elle disait, quand les gens disaient, ben, je suis venu pour vous voir, Ma,
And she would say, they come for darshan of their own self.
elle disait, en fait, ils viennent se voir eux-mêmes.
There was one particular Samyan Sapta who I wasn't there, but I read about it.
Alors il y a eu quelque chose qui s'est passé lors d'une des retraites de 7 jours qui était organisée.
And at the end, when Ma, people were asking questions, they were saying, Ma, so-and-so, and Ma would keep saying, she would stop them and say, I'm not your Ma.
Ok, parfois quelqu'un posait une question et disait, Ma, j'ai une question. Elle disait, non, non, je ne suis pas votre mère.
And it happened again and again, and people were just confused. They didn't know what Ma was saying.
Alors les gens étaient un peu confus, ils se demandaient, mais qu'est-ce qui se passe?
So they finally stopped and said, then who are you?
Alors une personne a dit, mais qui êtes-vous? Si vous n'êtes pas Ma, qui êtes-vous?
And Ma said very firmly, I am your own self.
Alors Ma a dit, je suis vous, je suis votre véritable nature, le soi.
So Ma is the Atman. She is the one we are inside, deep inside, the perfect, pure consciousness, unchanged, unborn. She is that in an external form. She is our own self. She is what we really are inside, unveiled.
Ma est un reflet de notre véritable nature, immuable, non duelle, indestructible. Elle est cela.
So through remembering her, through saying her name, through looking at her photo, through hearing her words, we're not seeing an external object. We're seeing our own self in reality. And that devotion to what looks like an external object, an external person, is really bringing us to our own self.
Quand nous voyons Ma, nous ne voyons pas une personne extérieure. Nous voyons notre véritable nature. Elle n'est pas à l'extérieur. Elle est nous. C'est nous que nous voyons lorsque nous adorons Ma, lorsque nous pensons à Ma.
Everyone had that experience in different ways. I frequently ask Ma devotees, tell me about your first darshan to Ma. And this is a common shared experience, but I will explain.
Alors, j'ai souvent posé la question à d'autres dévots, à d'autres fidèles de Ma, quelle était votre première expérience avec elle?
That there was just this feeling of deep, deep familiarity, even though it was the first time we were seeing her.
Tous ceux qui étaient en présence de Ma ressentaient une impression d'une grande familiarité, d'une grande intimité avec Ma, même si c'était la première fois qu'ils la rencontraient.
In my first darshan of Ma, I was looking at her and realizing no other experience in the world can give me the reaction I'm having now. This is totally new. This is something totally unique.
Donc, tous ceux qui ont partagé leur expérience disaient que c'était complètement nouveau, c'était extraordinaire.
And the main thing was I just looked at her and saw there's never been a time I didn't know her. There will never be a time I will not know her.
Et tous disaient, il n'y a jamais eu un moment où je ne l'ai pas connue et il n'y aura jamais un moment où je ne la connaîtrai plus.
It is because she is our very own self and she belongs to everyone in that way and she awakens our own true Atma.
Elle est nous, elle est le soi et elle éveille le soi au soi. Atman.
Did anyone know the French Swami Vijayananda Mahaswami, who was a French doctor?
Yes, actually, his grave is in a very famous cemetery in Paris, and many Ma devotees in France used to go there and pay respects to Vijayananda. Donc, Acharya demandait si on connaissait Swami Vijayananda, qui était un docteur français et et un certain nombre d'entre nous sont allés se recueillir sur sa tombe. On the grave, there is a big picture of Ma, and there's a big letters, giant letters with Om Ma. You cannot miss it.
Yes, I knew Swami Vijayananda very well, loved him very much, and I was a friend of mine was actually there when he left his body, and then when we were on tour from India, because we would tour Europe every year to raise money for our school, doing concerts and things. And we visited that very cemetery. We sat and meditated there at his shrine. So I've been there. He was a wonderful, wonderful, dear, dear soul and friend.
I think he helped a lot of French devotees. He
Yes.
turned the sight of many, many French devotees, even people who didn't know Ma. So through Swamiji went to Ma somehow like this. He was a wonderful face of Ma somehow.
Yes, yes. Well, please translate. I knew him as a friend, and we visited outside of Paris his tomb.
Donc voilà, donc on a parlé de Swami Vijayananda. Si vous allez à Paris, I'm just explaining where is the grave of Swami Vijayananda. Donc si vous allez à Paris, si vous avez l'occasion d'aller à Paris, allez au Père-Lachaise, au cimetière du Père-Lachaise, section 41. Il y a un grand disciple de Ma qui est enterré là, qui s'appelle Swami Vijayananda. C'est un médecin français qui nous a quittés en 2010. Il a fait énormément pour diffuser la parole d'Ananda Mayima en France.
One time I was traveling with Swami Kedarnath from our ashram and a couple of people from our ashram, and there was a young Bengali sadhu, brahmachari, with us, and we wanted to introduce him to Swami Vijayananda.
Alors une fois, Acharya était avec Swami Kedarnath et il voulait introduire un fidèle à Swami Vijayananda.
At this time, Swamiji was very old. He was in his 90s, and he was staying in the ashram Kankal.
Alors à cette époque-là, Vijayananda, donc le médecin français qui était devenu un Swami, était très âgé, il avait plus de 90 ans, donc il était à l'ashram à Kankal.
So we were able to go up to his room and just sit by his bed and talk to him and ask him questions.
Alors on a pu aller dans sa chambre, on a pu lui poser des questions.
And when we came down, our Swami Kedarnath, who's a great yogi, was impressed. He said he's reached the Nirvikalpa state. That's very good.
Et donc Swami Kedarnath, en quittant Swami Vijayananda, a dit, il a atteint l'état de inconditionné, ce qu'on appelle le Nirvikalpa Samadhi, donc l'état de inconditionné.
One time I was talking to him outside of my samadhi, and he laughed and he said, I'm 90, I think it was 96 years old. I think Ma has forgotten about me. I'm still here. Why didn't she call me? I think she's forgotten about me. And he laughed.
Alors une fois, ils étaient ensemble donc à l'ashram, et Swami Vijayananda se tourne vers Acharya et dit je crois que Ma m'a oublié, j'ai 96 ans, qu'est-ce que je fais encore là?
By the way, I'm happy to speak as long as people want to ask questions. I mean, I don't think we have to have unless you have a cutoff time.
No, we have, yes. So we are going to 7:30, which is like 10:30 for you. It's going to be the cutoff time. Yeah.
Okay. So any more questions?
I'm looking at the yellow hands. Je regarde les mains jaunes. Donc on sera en présence d'Acharya jusqu'à 7h30. Ceux qui ont d'autres plans, mais on voudrait le garder avec nous. Hein. I think I saw another question in the chat. Yes. Could Ma get upset about anything? Could she have like a fits of anger, you know? Like
No, I don't think that was possible. Anger comes from the ego, and Ma had no ego.
Alors, la question, c'était est-ce que Ma peut se mettre en colère? La réponse est non, parce que pour être en colère, il faut avoir un ego, et Ma n'avait pas du tout d'ego.
Ma could be very firm. Ma could be very demanding of those who came and gave their life to her.
Donc, Ma pouvait être très ferme, très stricte sur certains aspects, par rapport à certains qui venaient dans l'ashram.
She blessed everyone who came to her, but those who came and dedicated their lives, she put down very, very stringent guidelines for their sadhana.
Alors, ceux qui venaient juste la voir pour un darshan, pour une conversation privée, elle les bénissait. Mais ceux qui vivaient avec elle à l'ashram, elle était extrêmement stricte.
But everything was always done with such a sweetness and motherly love that it was tempered, so it became sweet.
Mais même quand elle donnait des instructions qui avaient l'air fermes, il y avait une telle douceur et une telle compassion que voilà, il n'y avait aucun problème.
I can tell you one incident though.
Je peux vous raconter quand même un incident.
This happened in 1936, so I wasn't there.
Alors, un incident qui s'est passé en 1936. Donc, Acharya n'était pas encore là.
And I only read about it in one book.
Et il l'a lu dans un livre.
Written by someone who was there.
Qui a été écrit par quelqu'un qui est ici.
This great soul named Bholanath was Ma's husband and her first disciple. She gave Diksha to him first.
Donc, Ma était mariée avec Bholanath, qui était également son premier disciple.
He was a great soul, and he was the father of the devotees, and everyone adored him, and Ma had him give the Diksha in the early days. So people had him as their guru even.
Alors, au début, c'était quelqu'un de très, très apprécié par tous les fidèles. Et à un moment, il donnait l'initiation même. Il était considéré comme le gourou.
But he had a very quick temper, and he could get very angry sometimes and cause a scene. Then it would pass quickly, and people. But he got angry frequently.
Alors son mari, par contre, le Bholanath, pouvait se mettre en colère très très facilement. Il était très très susceptible.
And Ma had an interesting relationship in that she was a dutiful wife. She would always ask permission for things. But at the same time, he was her disciple. So it was a very interesting relationship, and she guided him in his spiritual life.
Alors en fait, ils ont eu une relation extrêmement particulière parce qu'il était à la fois son mari, et donc elle le respectait, le servait comme son mari, mais en même temps, elle était son gourou. Donc c'était une relation extrêmement particulière, magnifique.
But his temper tantrums, which happen sometimes, caused difficulties in her lila and in her work.
Donc parfois, son caractère un peu difficile, ses éclats de colère pouvaient poser des problèmes à Ma, en apparence.
So in 1936, Ma and Baiji and Bholanath and Guru Priyaditi, a small group, all went on pilgrimage to Kailash, which is very difficult, walking, going by horse, very difficult, took months.
Alors, un jour, Ma, son mari et un autre disciple, Baiji, celui qui a donné le haut Ma, justement, sont partis en pèlerinage à Kailash. Et c'est un pèlerinage extrêmement difficile, ça prend des mois.
So they were in Almora, in the area which is now we have an ashram there. Eventually the ashram bought the land and it became an ashram, but they were staying in a dharmashala, and many devotees, a small group of devotees had come to see them off because and they bought them warm clothes to wear for the journey.
Alors, ils ont été rejoints à Almora par des fidèles qui leur avaient acheté des vêtements chauds pour aller dans l'Himalaya, parce que, bon, voilà.
So they were all staying there, maybe 20, 30 people, all in one room, and they were all sitting in the evening talking to Ma, and Ma was trying on the warm clothes.
Alors, ils étaient tous en train de discuter, d'être là, et puis Ma faisait des essayages de vêtements chauds.
And someone had bought her this nice wool cap for Ma, but she put it on and she said, it's a little bit small for me, a little bit tight.
Alors, Ma a on lui avait amené un petit bonnet de laine comme ça, mais elle a essayé de l'enfiler, elle disait non, c'est un peu petit.
So Bholanath said, my head's a little bit bigger, let me wear it for a while, I'll put it on, and then when it's stretched out, I'll give it to you, and you can wear it.
Voilà, alors Bholanath s'est proposé, il a dit, attendez, je vais utiliser ma tête, ça va détendre le bonnet.
Bholanath was a sadhu and he had a long jata, the matted hair.
Donc, Bholanath, c'était un sadhu, donc il avait les jata, il avait les dreadlocks comme ça, qu'il portait.
So it said, Ma was like a little girl and she smiled and she said, ooh, no, you don't wash your hair and it smells bad. You'll make it smell bad. And she laughed. It was cute. And everybody laughed. It was like a funny little joke, very cute, very girlish.
Alors, donc Ma a dit non, ne mets pas le bonnet, Bholanath, parce que ça va sentir, etc. Donc, ça va être un problème, voilà. Et tout le monde avait trouvé ça très marrant.
For some reason, this just enraged Bholanath.
Mais la blague, elle n'avait pas été du tout bien comprise et bien reçue par Bholanath. Et donc, du coup, voilà, il s'est mis en colère.
And he was across the room from her, quite a ways. They were on opposite sides of a large room, and he was screaming and he was saying, "How dare you be so disrespectful? I'm not going to Kailash with you." Blah 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 blah. He was just really enraged.
Alors, il était très en colère. Il a dit, mais comment tu peux parler de ça en présence d'autres, etc. Je vais pas aller à Kailash avec toi.
And this went on for a little bit of a time.
Et ça a duré un petit moment.
And those who saw it described what happened next.
Et donc, elle a vu quelque chose, et ça va être décrit maintenant.
You know, you see in images of Durga, of the Divine Mother, she's holding a spear like this on the heart of the demon, which is the ego, you know.
Donc, vous connaissez peut-être l'image de la déesse Durga, donc la déesse Durga qui a justement un trident comme ça et qui le pointe, sur un démon qui est en fait l'ego.
They said they didn't see how it physically happened. They said in an instant there was just this white flash, and Ma was across the room, and she was like this, talking to him. This.
Et donc, ils n'ont pas vu comment ça s'est passé, mais Ma a traversé la pièce comme par magie, et elle pointait comme ça vers Bolanath.
And she said, "Chup, chup." That means quiet, shut up.
Donc, elle a commencé, elle avait comme ça, elle pointait vers son mari Bolanath, et lui a dit, tiens-toi tranquille maintenant.
He said, "How much more will I bear with you?" And she was like this.
Et après, le mari a dit, mais comment je vais pouvoir encore supporter ça? Elle était vraiment, vraiment prête à le... Voilà.
Bolanath was very quiet.
Et après, Bolanath, il est devenu
and
tout à fait
Ma went out of the
calme.
room. Then Ma went out of the room, and maybe 2 minutes there, came back and said, and everything was fine.
Et donc, Ma et Bolanath sont allés ensuite dans une autre pièce. Ils sont revenus et tout était parfait. Il n'y avait plus de problème, plus de conflit.
And Bolanath was very quiet.
Bolanath était maintenant très tranquille.
And they said the people in the room, they said the power, the power of the Divine Mother was so, they said it was terrifying. They said it wasn't just her words, her movement. See that the Shakti was just like vibrating to the room.
Donc, lorsque Ma s'est transformée en quelque sorte en la déesse Durga, tous les gens qui étaient présents ont senti une immense puissance, quelque chose d'incroyable.
So it wasn't anger, or it wasn't anger or anything connected with the ego. It was just divine power getting a job done, making that ego be quiet.
Donc, en fait, ce n'était pas de la colère, c'était la puissance divine, la Shakti, qui en fait détruisait l'ego.
Ma, consistently throughout her life, despite all her different bhavs she would manifest, there was this stillness, stability, and sweetness that pervaded everything at all times.
Quoi qu'il arrive, Ma était toujours stable, toujours aimante. Rien, aucune circonstance ne pouvait altérer sa sérénité. Thank you so much, Acharya, for these magnificent stories about the life of Ma. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here and talk to people who, like I say, all of you have been touched by Ma. So you're my family, and we're on one community, one family. And, very happy to talk.
Tous ici en présence, nous avons été touchés par la Divine Mère, et nous sommes une seule famille, une seule communauté. Où que nous soyons. You know, Acharya, you have people from very far away. In this Satsang, we have people who connected from New Caledonia. I don't know if you know New Caledonia. It's like 2,000 kilometers away from the coast of Australia, in the middle of the Pacific. Nice. So we have really people joining from the entire world today.
Beautiful,
and tonight to listen to you and to be one under the love of Ma. Voilà. Donc, je disais à Acharya qu'il y a des gens du monde entier qui assistent aujourd'hui à ce satsang et que nous sommes tous un dans le cœur de la Mère divine.
Well, should we end with another kirtan?
Yes, let's go for kirtan. Je suis désolé, les amis, on a une contrainte de temps, donc on ne va pas pouvoir répondre à toutes les questions. Mais maintenant est venu le temps où nous allons entendre Acharya chanter pour nous à la gloire de la Divine Mère. Jai Ma, Om Ma, Jai Ma.
And we have also a Zoom satsang, but only in English, every third Sunday of the month at 1 o'clock our time, so it's like 9 o'clock your time, or 10 o'clock late. But the link is on my website if anyone would like to go to that.
Donc Acharya organise des satsangs, bon c'est en anglais, mais avec des kirtans, etc. Je vous donnerai les informations, etc. Mais c'est à ne pas manquer. Thank you.
Okay. Ma's name given at birth was Nirmala Sundari. So it means beauty without blemish. Nirmala Sundari.
Le nom de Ma, c'était Nirmala Sundari, ce qui signifie la beauté immaculée.
So in this kirtan, one point we say Nirmala Sundari Ma Anandamayi Ma.
Dans cette petite chanson, nous disons Nirmala Sundari Ma Anandamayi Ma.
Jaya Ma, 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 Anandamayi Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma. Anandamayi Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Ma. Nirmala Sundari Ma, Anandamayi He Ma, 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 Jaya 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 Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma, Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Jaya Jaya Ma. Jai Ma.
Pranam, pranam, Koti Koti, pranam.
Thank you all for being here. And thinking of Ma together.
A million thank you to you, Acharya. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, I'm happy to come back anytime you want me to. And also, when you're in India in March, come to our ashram, please. We'll be in touch with that.
I will.
All of you are welcome to visit our Ma Sharanam ashram in central India. A beautiful place with a big round Ma temple. In fact, it has images of Ma, plus it has pictures all around the outside, inside of women mystics of different traditions: Christian, Sufi, Sikh, Hindu. So it's a Devi temple of feminine energy.
Alors Acharya reviendra nous voir et il nous invite, si nous avons la possibilité, si nous allons en Inde, de visiter l'ashram qui s'appelle le Mahacharanam, qui est un ashram dédié à la Divine Mère sous toutes ses formes, non seulement Ananda Mahima, mais toutes les formes de la Divine Mère. Je vous donnerai les coordonnées de l'ashram dans la description de la vidéo lorsqu'elle sera publiée. Many thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Chers amis, on se retrouve dimanche prochain, même heure. Gratitude pour votre présence. Et maintenant, comme Acharya vous l'a dit, nous sommes ici, non pas de notre propre volonté, mais parce que la Divine Mère nous a rassemblés en une seule famille. Par sa grâce, Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Om Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Jai Ma.